Thanks for that. We'll get him.
Everybody ready?
Recording started.
Okay, guys. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're gonna stand for the pledge of allegiance.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we can do our roll call, please. Right.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. First of all, let me say that the zoning official, Mrs. Detmer, is not able to attend the meeting tonight. She apologizes, but she's got a family emergency at Rose middle of today, and this doesn't allow her to attend even by Zoom. So I can go ahead and act as secretary, I guess. So Erickson.
Here.
Hoff.
Here.
Lopez. Here. Class.
Present.
Catalano.
Present.
Chairman Waters.
Here.
Very good. So everyone is here. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The purpose is, main purpose is a continuation of a public hearing that commenced earlier and has been set over. That pertains to a petition for special use and variances filed by Timothy James for property at 1601 West Main Street in the Village. Okay. Mr. James has filed a revised petition recently, and there are a couple of changes that were made to the site plan. I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, well, let me back. When we last adjourned, the Plan Commission members were questioning the petition. I would suggest that we back up a step, allow the petitioner to explain the changes to his plan. There are 3 or 4, and then allow for public comment regarding those changes. If there is any, there were 4 people. We had 4 people address the commission earlier. Peter Vernon, Deborah Vernon, Edie Reese, and John Payton. As to you folks, there'd be no reason you need to sign in again if you wish to speak tonight. But anyone else who might want to speak about this revised plan or ask questions of the petitioner, there are speaker forms on the table in the rear. Please fill one of those out and hand it to the chairman. That way we have a record of the correct spelling of your name and your desire to be recognized. All right. After that, I think then you could resume questioning by the Plan Commission members of the petitioner regarding his petition and the revisions recently submitted to the zoning official. Okay.
All right. Can we start out really quick with the approval of the minutes from March 10th, 2025? Make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. That was class or I
Who
don't
made the motion?
Erickson.
Thank you for the
motion.
Second by Lopez.
And then do we need a motion to amend the agenda for tonight's meeting to account for the changes Mr. Schuster just mentioned?
You could do that if you wish. Just
Yeah, I think it's wise, just for the record, I call it a motion to amend the agenda to allow for a presentation from the proponent and then allow for public comment to go before our questions from the commission. Does that sound fair to?
Sure. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, we'll continue on then to the continuation of the public hearing for 1601 West Main Street for the special use for indoor self-storage facility. Variation for floor area ratio, the FAR from 0.23 to 0.28. variation for height of the structure from 1 story, 20 feet to 3 story, 35 feet, and variation for number of structures on lot from 1 to 7. We'll go ahead with our presentation.
Mr. James, may I ask, the revised plan does not show the 3-story building. Are you withdrawing that petition, that part of your petition?
Yes.
All right, so there's just the 2 remaining requests regarding the floor area ratio and the number of buildings?
Correct.
Good, thank you, sir.
Yeah, we made that revision with our new application for Barbara, but that might have not got passed along. Question though, Chairman. It's been 2 months now, you know, we had two meetings scheduled, both got canceled. Do you want me to go through briefly the original presentation?
Whatever you feel comfortable, if you want to give us a little like recap of it.
That's what I think probably, yeah, since we're, you know, since 2 months have gone by, since we met last, I thought that might be a little refresher course for everyone.
Okay.
And maybe there's some people here too that weren't here before.
Okay.
So I'll be brief on that. I won't, you know, take a lot of time on that. So I need the PowerPoint to start. And see if my clicker works.
Mr. James, is this the same PowerPoint you presented earlier?
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Yes. Let's see if we- yeah. Okay, so I feel like if we're on a movie set here, this is like take 4, since we had all these other cancellations here. But I want to thank everybody, first of all, before I even start, for the feedback from the last meeting. I think it was very helpful, and I think that you're gonna enjoy the changes we made. I think it's what what everyone here is looking for. I think it was a good thing to postpone this so that we can see the revisions, and I think you'll appreciate the revisions. This has been a challenge, I'll tell you though, to make a site plan for this development or this 1601 West Main Street. It's been a challenge to make it profitable, to make it good access to the site for customers, and be considerate of the neighboring properties, and to keep the character of Sleepy Hollow in mind. But this is what we've tried to do. So let's go through the original, and then we'll go right to the changes then that we made. Just a little, table of contents here of what we'll go through, and then we'll get to the changes. My wife and I own a self-storage facility in Wakanda. We've been doing the self-storage now for about 7 years. We have a nice facility that we built there in 2023. It's mainly all drive up, unheated storage. So this is a couple of pictures of ours. We also have boats and RVs there as well. Little background about us. I was born here in Chicago, raised in Des Plaines. My main background for most of my life is I've been a nurseryman and a landscaper. So I've been in, like I said, I just got into self-storage about 7 years ago. Kristen, my wife, she's originally from Colorado. She's a licensed realtor, and she worked at Public Storage before we even did our self-storage facility, and gave her really, really good experience in self-storage, so that we felt confident going into it on our own. We're not a big company. We're not big developers. We're just a husband and wife team. This is one of our garden centers that we used to have in Lake Zurich. That's been my passion really most of my life. was landscaping and the garden center business. Everything you see there, we grew ourselves. We were what was called a grower retailer. So we really enjoyed our work, and what we did. And quite frankly, we were proud of, the product we sold. And you can see the greenhouses there in the background too. We built a really nice facility there that made several national magazines in the garden center business. Just a few more photos of the things. Again, everything there you see, we grew ourselves. So we also had a second location in Crystal Lake. And then the main growing operation was just over the border in Walworth County, Wisconsin. So here's where we're looking to develop. As I'm sure most of you know, we're on the very edge of Sleepy Hollow. How do we make that pointer work again? That red pointer.
On the screen.
Oh, it won't. Oh, okay.
It works there, but not on the screen.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. All right. So we're on the very edge, northern edge there of Sleepy Hollow, right along Route 72 or Higgins Road or Main Street, whatever you want to call it here. Here's an aerial view of the site that was taken recently, again, showing the site with that partial tree clearing that was done. And there's a view looking the other side from the other side. So the subject property here that we're talking about is zone B2. And the purpose of the B2 zoning is low to moderate density commercial or office use. We believe we fit that. It's going to be a low use or low intensity. And I'll talk more about that as we go along. Permitted uses in the B2 include the list there that you see. And it also includes self-storage on the next slide. Unfortunately, things have changed in the retail business, as I'm sure you all know. I bet everybody in this room orders from Amazon instead of just going to brick and mortar buildings now. Brick and mortar is, just not what people are building anymore. Same way with office. I don't need to tell you how many office buildings sit vacant now, since people like to work from home. So there are some of the other commercial uses here in Sleepy Hollow, just to the east of us. You can, they have the restaurant there. There's a liquor store. There's future banquet hall, I understand, is in the works. Advanced Auto Parts, which may or may not stay, from what I've heard also. So again, here in the B2 and B1, there are these other uses that could go on this property with the special use permit. But, a dog kennel, drive-in, McDonald's could go there. And as I've started there, self-storage is a permitted use in the B2 district under a special use permit. But so are some of these other uses. I bring this up because, we're here petitioning for this particular use that we want, but there's other uses that could come in here too. And I think our use is a very low intensity and a very quiet use compared to some of these other ones, especially a cell tower in your backyard or barking dogs or the drive-through speaker at McDonald's. I don't think that's what you want in this site. The location fits really well for self-storage also, because people now, the trend is people want to be close to where they store their belongings. They don't want them out in the back 40 where they feel that they can't really keep an eye on it. They can come to the Jewel here and they can drive out from the Jewel parking lot and they can still see this facility and know that their property is safe and nearby. Again, here's the same thing, site and location now. People want to have good access. They want good visibility and traffic counts. That's why this, again, the self-storage, it just makes sense for this site because we have all three of those. Traffic, we have good traffic count, we have good visibility, and now we have better access than the original plan. So, again, I crossed out number 3 there. Because we're not gonna have the 3-story building anymore, so the elevator is out. But we will have drive up, we'll have some climate control, 1 building, and then, the large spaces for boat and RV storage. Here's a quote. This is in one of our trade magazines, SSA, Self Storage Associations magazine, just from last December here. You can read it, what it says there. The outdated notion for this to be located in the far back corner is not what people want anymore. So again, same thing, we want to develop this empty space. It's going to meet residents' needs. People need to store stuff. As they say, life happens. Property tax revenue for this site. This will most likely be the highest property taxed property in Sleepy Hollow after this is built. Self-storage is used by many people. It's not just one generation, as you can see here. This graph shows many different, Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, boomers. Everybody uses self-storage to a certain extent. Some of the things that are driving the need for more storage space, because we hear this all the time. Oh, there's so many self-storage facilities now, we don't need another one. Well, actually, they're still building them, and they're still doing it because there is a need that's driving this. The housing costs are high right now, so people aren't moving. Increased mobility and lifestyle changes. The remote work revolution. Okay, people needed to clear that bedroom out or whatever, the den, and they need to use it as an office now. They got to put the stuff somewhere. And then the same way, same for businesses as well. Here's another thing that happens a lot. We hear this now at our Wakanda facility is somebody passed away. They don't have the heart to throw everything away yet or go through it. They just want to put that off to the side right now, and they'll come and rent the storage facility from us. This is a slide you wanted to present, didn't you?
Just it plays into the housing shortage, and the same is true in Kane County.
Housing shortage is making people, these apartments and that are just getting so expensive now. So people are downsizing, they need to put stuff in storage. Same thing again, this is saying pretty much the same thing as we just mentioned. All right, so here's the reasons why we think this project should be approved for self-storage. It's quiet. I mean, really quiet. I'm telling you, there are days we get maybe 5-10 people at our storage facility in Wakanda right now. And they come, they store their stuff, and they leave. So low traffic. If you do the math, actually, this site that we're proposing for self-storage would probably have somewhere between 250 to 300 units. So if you want to do the math, say we have 300. Let's err on the side of full. 300 tenants, and they come once a month or once every other month. Let's say they come once a month. So 300 times 12 months is 3,600 visits per year. You divide that by 365 days a year, that's 9.8 visits per day. 9.8 people coming per day. McDonald's probably gets that in 10 minutes. So that's what we would get all day if you do the math here. So that's why we say it's very quiet and it's really low traffic. Loitering, auto repair, those kind of things are not permitted. That's not what we would allow. Also, it's going to create a nice sound barrier for the residents to the south. The buildings will actually block the sound, and then we will block the building view with additional landscaping. Like we like to say, the only better neighbor you could have here would be a cemetery to be any quieter. Security. It's gonna be very restricted as to how to get in and how to get out. The facility will be fully fenced and fully gated. You have to have a gate code to get in and a gate code to get out. That's something that most storage facilities don't do. They just have a gate code to get in. We have, in Wakanda, and we'll have the same thing here, another gate code to get out. The reason for that is that way we monitor how long you've been there. Okay, if you're coming in at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're not leaving till 6 o'clock at night, I'm gonna come talk to you because you're doing something there that you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be there for that long. Same thing, you know, if you're there overnight, same thing. Why are you there overnight? Although we wouldn't have access overnight here, but in Wakanda, we do have 24-hour access if it's added to your lease. So, and there's only just a couple people, but we're not asking for that here. We're not talking about that here. Gate access would be limited from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then security cameras run 24/7, recording everything that's going on. And everything is done by either credit card or check. We have no cash. There's not going to be anybody. We don't have that in the. That's in our lease that we don't do cash. You got to either do a check or a credit card. So the security cameras work really well too, and we can back them up at a minimum of 30 days. We had an issue this winter at our facility in Wakanda where the fence got dented, and I asked Kristen to check out who did that. I figured one of my guys backed into it when they were snow plowing, and because usually they would tell me something like that, but I didn't hear about it. So Kristen checked the camera, and we had a deer jump the fence and couldn't figure out how to get out. So it butted the fence over and over and over again and put a dent in the fence. So, so the cameras work. Vital resource for the community. Like we said, stuff happens, life happens. Self-storage is kind of like being in a real estate business too. You drive past it, and you know, you're like, oh, no, we don't really need that. No, we don't really need that. Oh, we don't really need it. And then one day somebody passes away, or somebody gets divorced, or you know, your job says you can work at home now. Now you need it. And then you remember that facility you kept driving by too. Kind of like with the, you know, with a realtor. You only need a realtor when you want to buy or sell your house. Storage is kind of the same way. Low impact on community services here. We don't really need hardly any water. We need electricity, of course, because we're going to be well lit for security reasons. And we're planning on having one bathroom in the, well, two, men and women. We'll have a bathroom in the office. We don't produce hardly any garbage, and low traffic volume coming in and out on Route 72, like the example I gave. If you do the math, really how many people are coming and going in a specific day. Our landscaping and curb appeal, we're very proud of, you know, this new plan we came up with. And again, I told you my life's work has mainly been in the nursery business. So I love landscaping. I love creating beautiful landscapes. And that's what we want to do here as well. And we'll show you that on our landscape plan as well. We've also exceeded, by the way, the required landscape surface ratio. Without the pond, it's what you're required is 0.30. Without the pond, it's 0.35. With the pond, it's 0.426. Again, we feel this is the highest and best use for this property. This is not an easy property. It sat vacant for like 30 years before Conrad bought it. It's difficult to get in and out of. It's got challenges with it, also because of the ingress and egress. When they put in Higgins Road there, or Route 72, they didn't do this property any favors. If you look at it closely, Higgins Road is on a slant. The median that divides the two lanes going east and west also has a slant. It makes it very difficult to get into the property. And you'll see why we came up with an alternative to that. So here was our old site plan. Okay. We had the pond all the way over on the far east end. We had the climate controlled building then, as you continue to the west. Then we had 5 buildings in the center, with the one building that was at the very south end along the 25-foot setback. And then we have one building on the far west. I noted on here where there's no doors facing the residences. That's still in effect, as I'll show you on the new site plan, but this is the old one. I will put it up here on the board here as well. One of the nice things about these buildings is their roof pitch. It's 1/4 inch per 12. So if you're familiar with construction, what that says is for every 12 inches of roof space, your pitch is 1/4 of an inch. I mean, that's unheard of how little pitch that is. So what it comes down to then is you don't see the roof. So instead of having say your normal house is 612, so for every 12 inches, your roof goes up 6 inches. Well, then you got a real roof you're looking at then. On these types of buildings, they don't do that. They do it with a real minimal pitch. So the roofs are basically invisible. We're all fenced, so this facility, this is our facility in Wakanda, on the back side of it there. That's the decorative black aluminum fencing we like to use. Here's a typical unit that we have there. We are fully gated there, of course, and so will this facility. This is what's known as a vertical pivot gate. And the way it works is instead of sliding back and forth, it goes up and down like this, which is preferred now in most facilities for self-storage. There's loops that are in the ground, and there's also detectors on that cabinet, that black cabinet on the right. That is for safety, so that the gate can't come down on anybody. Here's the old landscape plan. This is a good landscape plan. This was, this is what we originally had. We had a lot of landscaping on the west, a lot of it on the south. But as I'll show you in part 2 coming up here, we've improved on that. We've kept most of those varieties that are on the right. We've still got most of those in the plan, but we just added more and some other varieties as well. Here's the old rendering. This is the 3-story building. I happen to like this. I think this was a nice looking modern building. But we listened to what the board here had to say, and we've changed it. We've got more browns, we've got more texture, we've got brick now. And we nixed this. So it's not 3-story anymore. It's now going to be 1-story. Here's the sign elevations we showed you before. These conform to your sign ordinance. We'll have one sign out on the road and one sign on the climate controlled building. I mentioned, I think some of this already, we're going to be, access hours would be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The office that would be the maximum hours for the office, Monday through Friday. Most of our rentals right now, we don't do them. People don't come in. They do it online or they call us. So quite frankly, the office will probably not be used a lot, but we think we still need to have one, especially in what we call lease up phase, which is the time after we open after construction to the time where we reach stabilization. I threw this slide in just to tell you that, we will comply with photoelectric plan for King County. There will be no light pollution, as they say, that will bleed over. That's something that we still need to compile is a photoelectric engineering plan. Okay, so the variance as we mentioned, we're asking for from, on the FAR, the floor area ratio. Allowed is 0.23. We're asking for 0.28. And the reason we need this is quite simply, anything less than 0.28, we can't be profitable. We can't. We're at razor sharp margins right now, especially since we nixed the 3-story building. We have to be profitable, otherwise there's no point in doing this. Hallways in the climate control building do take away from rentable square feet. I know somebody mentioned the last meeting that those don't count, but I counted them in anyway. So they're part of it. Variance 2, we don't need to talk about that anymore since we took that out. We're not looking for the 3-story building anymore. We've taken that out. So we'll go on to variance 3, which is the multiple buildings. Self-storage needs multiple buildings. People want to drive up to their unit. Across the street, you've got U-Haul that has very inconvenient access where you park in their parking lot, you take your stuff out of your car, you put it on a cart, you push it into their doorway, then you go into the hallway, push it down multiple hallways to get to your unit, or if you're the unlucky guy who's on the 2nd floor, you got to pick it all off the cart and walk it upstairs. So this is what people want. They want to drive up to their unit, just like their garage. And it's basically what it is. It's a big garage door that opens up and it's right there, and it makes it real easy for them to carry stuff and unload stuff and put it in their unit. We also need the multiple buildings because of the fact that not everybody wants the same size. So we got 5 by 10, 10 by 10, 10 by 15, 10 by 20, 10 by 25, 10 by 30. People want different size. So we need different size buildings to accommodate that. So that's why we need that, multiple buildings as well. That's the way self-storage operates. And then we can have the choice too between climate controlled and non-climate controlled. So that was our presentation that we made 2 months ago. We left this slide up, asked, if people wanted to contact us, they could. And we did have 2 people respond from the last meeting. One person called to ask us some questions about it, gave them all the answers that they were looking for. And another person asked us if we were going to have any native plants in our landscaping. They were considering native plants, and we do. We have river birch, we got viburnums, and then not to mention some of the perennials as well. So we do have some native plants in with the landscape plan. So that was before. Okay, now here we are, part 2. All right, so we made a total of 8 changes to the original plan. Okay, and I'm gonna read through them here, but then I'm gonna go through them one by one because I think they're all important changes. Okay, we reorientated the retention pond and the climate control building. Why? Well, because it came out as a better result for the neighbors. It gave us a much bigger buffering for the neighbors. Okay. We reduced the climate control building from 3 stories to a 1 story. Okay, we already talked about that. Color change. We heard what you asked for. You want more browns, more tans, and we did. We added that to the climate control building and the other building. Texture change. We added brick to the climate control building, and we added embossed stucco on the panels for the majority of the rest of the building. We also added more dimensions and topography on the site plan, which showing a south and west berms to increase the buffering again to the neighbors. We added a new east access to the site also. This is a big deal for us and customers as well. It's a better plan than just coming off of Route 72. And we'll show that, I guess, like, I'll show that on the site plan. We were lucky to get that. The neighbor to the east, Mac Patel, we had several meetings with him and he granted us permission to do that. I did give, Barbara does have a copy of that, by the way. Mr. Attorney, I don't know if it's.
I saw a letter
Yeah,
from Mr. Patel.
correct. That's it. Yeah, okay. We heard you too. Say no chain link fence. You didn't like chain link fence, so we made all the fencing decorative black aluminum fencing. And then we added a lot more landscaping, especially on the south end, as I'll show. So let me go. Let's first talk about the first one, reorientation of the retention pond and climate control building. Let me get the, I'm gonna bring my plan out here. Okay, you wanna take this one? You guys, how do you want me to face these? Do you want me to face them into the camera so it can go up on the screen? Whoops, did I do that? No. Can you move that one out?
You want it to go here?
Keep going, yeah. Probably better, keep going, keep going, keep going. Should we put it up on the screen or just,
John, will that work?
oh, that's right, it's, okay, you know what, then I'm gonna turn it this way. Yeah, let's turn it this way. The audience, I think, can see it on the screen. So I want to do a comparison here. Can you get us back to here on the left off, like bump this for this?
Kind of blocking the people on this side of the house.
Maybe over here.
Your way, right?
Yeah. Don't worry about me. I don't have any.
Bring it down some. Lower the
You
leg,
know what? Let's just-
lower the leg, the camera will still get it.
And screen.
Or in this aisle over here, Sam, maybe.
Here, we'll do this. Yeah, here, I'll put one over here.
One in this aisle and one over there.
Yeah, okay.
But
Okay.
I'm good with
That
that.
better? All right. Okay, all right. Did you get me back? Yes, thank you. All right, so here's the original site plan again.
Original.
And now what we did, you remember there was only one access there off of Route 72. We had that building to the south there. And here's the new revised site plan now. So now we have access coming in from the east. I'm gonna stand over here and show it here too. So here's our new east access, okay? This is gonna be the main access. This is going to be emergency access for the fire department. We're still gonna have two ways to get in and out, but this one will be for the fire department. We want everybody to come in this way. So that way this is gated and everything will be fenced, so they come in this way. As you can see, we took the retention pond, which used to be all the way on the east side of the property there. We laid it down and brought it down this way. Okay, so now there's two residences right here. They see into the retention pond instead of looking at the backside of the climate control building. Climate control building got moved over here. It was just to the west of the retention pond. Now it's up here in this corner. We then took all these buildings and tilted them so that they are parallel with Higgins Road. Instead of being parallel with the property line down here, now they're parallel with Higgins Road. So it gave us extra buffering here in this corner here and a little bit here. But we really feel this is a much improved site plan for the neighbors here to the south. You can also, and I'm going to touch on this later again, but you can see how much more intense the landscaping is here on the south and on the west. compared to that plan also. So again, and then we're gonna do more landscaping up here along Higgins with perennial planting beds as well. But again, this entrance will still be here, but for fire access only. Everybody's gonna have to come in here. This lines up with the entrance that Matt Patel has for his property here. So this is safer. It's also more convenient for all our customers to come in this way. Before, if you wanted to access the site and you were westbound on Higgins, you would have to go up here to the light, pull in, turn around, come back out, and then come in. It's inconvenient, and it's kind of a, you know, we don't want to impede the neighborhood here either. So this was a huge deal for us to meet with Mr. Patel, and work this out. Didn't come at a cost, at no cost though. He's a good businessman, and there's you know, we're going to enter into a cost sharing agreement here, and also an upfront cost for this as well. So like I said, he's a good businessman, but it's still a better way to access this site. This has never been explored before here. That's part of the reason why this site was so difficult to ever develop. But, you know, like I say, we've come to terms, and I have a letter to prove it there on record that he's granted us this access. But I think that's huge. All right, so this is the same plan with topo lines, topography lines added, which I can, you know what, I bring that up a little bit later again. I'll wait and I'll explain that a little bit further. Okay, so number 2, 3, and 4, we reduced the climate controlled building again from 3 stories to a single story. We changed colors. We went to browns and tans, and texture by adding brick and embossed stucco, which I brought some samples with here. So let me first go. So there's the original renderings again on the 3-story. Now here's the new renderings. This is a picture coming in right here from the east, the new access. This is entering right here. That car is right about there. The retention pond is to the car's left. And then if you see the corner of the building there, there's going to be, that's where we're going to have a small office. The gate's not on this picture. The architect didn't know where we're going to put the gate, but the gate is basically right where that office. Well, no, it'll be before the office. It'll be between where the car is and that office there you see in the corner of that building.
Probably could take this and just flip it over so people can see. Like,
Oh, like this?
okay,
Like this?
that's how the car is coming in.
Yeah. Okay. But you look at how much space is between the entrance and the neighbors now to the south. It's huge compared to what we had before. Okay, now this is coming around the climate control building. Now we're right here. We're right about here. We're standing here in the northeast corner, looking toward the climate control building. And you can, we're right in this drive aisle here. You can see how this is a good depiction of how the building has been wrapped in brown. That's that embossed stucco, which I'll show you a sample of here in just a second. I just wanted to show all these renderings at the same time. And you can see the main entrance right in the right-hand side of that picture. That's where the main entrance is. That's our climate controlled building. That's this building here. Okay, that entrance there is this bump out right here. So that's where the entrance is right here, facing Higgins Road. Another picture from the same angle. This is coming down further toward the main entrance. Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, that's a good view from from Route 72. That's what it'll look like when you're driving by. This is a nice bird's eye view of the facility up in the northwest corner. Okay, again, the large building to the left, on the left-hand side of the screen is the climate controlled building. And then you have your drive-up building in the middle with the one building then on the west side. And again, you see where the location of the retention pond is in relation to the south property line. Okay, now we're standing back over. We're right about, let's see. We're in the next, we're right, okay, we're right down here. Yeah, we're right down here. Here we are. We're standing right here. The retention pond is to the right. And we're looking down this drive aisle toward Higgins Road. Higgins Road being all the way in the distance there. So the climate control building on the right, but we're looking down this one drive aisle here. Okay, now we're up over here, looking
Back towards the entrance, yeah.
right over here. No, this way. Yeah, we're looking this way. We're standing right here in the middle. We're looking back toward the entrance. That red car in the distance is right here where right at the entrance, probably going out the gate right now. Again, see the distance between the building, that climate control building, and the residences is being buffered by that retention pond. Here's another, that's a close-up of the entrance to the climate control building. Again, we got brick all the way on the bottom, wrapping that in the front, facing Higgins Road, and the embossed stucco, and then the brown parapet wrapping the top. The brown parapet goes around that entire building. So I brought some samples here too, if you'd like to see. I got a sample of what the brick looks like. That's the brick. One more thing. Added that.
Yeah.
And I also have a sample here of what the embossed stucco is gonna look like. This is the material they use for these buildings with the insulation for the climate controlled building. This is, of course, needed in the climate controlled building because it's got to be heated and it's got to be cooled. So this meets energy code. This is the embossed thing, and that's how they fit together too, how the panels fit together. This is the stucco look. This is not the color though. I couldn't get the exact color, but this is close. This is that embossed stucco look. You might want to pass that around. You're welcome to do that.
Metal?
Yes, metal skin with the polyurethane, I think they call that in the middle.
Can you tell us where this is? Is it here?
Yes,
Okay. And it's not this?
no, but it's similar.
Okay.
This is more for the flat surfaces. Yeah,
Will you be having your HVAC units on the roof? And will be covered?
if they're on the roof, they'll be behind the parapet. But I think they're gonna be inside. I don't think the roof is gonna, I don't think the roof's gonna be supported, because this is not structural steel now. You know, this is light gauge, so I don't think that it will support it. So the reason we switched from the 3-story to the single story is steel is crazy right now. I can't even get a quote for more than 7 days. Yeah, it's insane right now. Structural steel is obviously more expensive than light gauge. I'm sure Dan,
So
you know that.
You'll be, the whole thing will be on a C channel. Studs, let's say, metal studs.
Yes, it's built,
Your rafters,
it's all steel,
all steel,
all steel.
okay.
Yep. All right, so we added more dimensions on the site plan here as well. This is where I want to show you on that berming. We did this so you could understand the plan a little bit better, you know, put more dimensions on, that way you can see the distances in that. So this here, this dimension from the southernmost building to the property line there is 60 feet from that left-hand corner, and on the right-hand corner, it's 28 feet. So obviously it's on a it's paralleling Higgins Road, so that's why it runs that way. Keep in mind, this is to my property line, these dimensions. There's an additional 10 feet between my property line and the neighbor's property line for a 10-foot utility easement. So you know, add 10 feet to these till you get to their property line. There's electrical lines there from ComEd that run the entire south end of the property. Okay, this is topography around the pond and on the south and west border. And I have those numbers here. I'll get this real quick and I'll tell you what they are. All right. So in the far upper corner of the site plan, the northwest corner, where you see those.
You wanna get around here?
Yeah,
That'd be better.
this corner up here. 779 is the high point, 774 at the low point. So we got a 5-foot difference here between the top of the berm and the swale for water to drain this way. So you got a 5-foot difference between the neighbors on the west. Here, at this point, right about in the middle here, I took a midpoint here. You're at 767 at the property line. And 773 at the top of the berm. Here's the top of the berm, 773. And then it goes back down to 770. So this here is going like this and down. So it comes up, starts down at the property line like this, comes up, and then goes back down. So this is the berm here, which is the difference there is 6 feet. Okay. In this corner, right down here, we've got 750 right here, and we got 759 here. These are all elevations above sea level, by the way. This is how they do the topography here. So the Chicago area is basically 750 to 800 above sea level. So here we're 750 here, 759 there, a 9-foot difference here from this low point by the property and then the high point here. And then, of course, it goes down into the pond. So we've got some additional screening of the neighborhood, the neighbors to the south, not just with landscaping that we're going to show you yet, but also with the berming. These are the elevations that the engineer came up with to help screen the property, you know, even further, and of course to hold the water into the pond.
And that retention pond that you have there, detention pond or retention pond. On the one page, it looks like you have a pretty sizable wall.
Correct. There's a retention, there's
Yeah, it's gotta be 8 feet probably.
there's two walls. They're about, I think one of them's 5 feet and another one's 4 feet, if I remember correctly, approximately. There's
Okay,
two walls there. And the reason for that is if we just have a hole there holding water, you have to slope it gently to come up. Well, as you continue to slope it, you're losing real estate. So we put a wall in and then we can go straight up and then up like that. It keeps the pond volume the same, but it kind of shrinks the real estate that we have to burn in order to gain that elevation. So that's how we were able to do the reorientation of the pond as well. We had to add those retaining walls within the pond border. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do this.
okay, so that's what the other part of in there, okay.
How are you
There's no
building those
sidewalk
walls?
around there, is there? There's no sidewalk
We
around
could
there.
pull some of these
Guys,
No,
questions.
Yeah.
no, there's grass.
If
Yeah,
you
we'll stay
can.
for the, I'm just shouting
Let's
down.
get through this presentation, which was going to be brief.
I'm sorry.
I'm quite long.
Sorry, I just want everybody to have a good understanding. Okay. All right, next, the east access that we add to the site. We talked about that already, but again, I'm gonna highlight it. Because here's our fire access route, which shows the access coming in from the east really well. Those are all drive aisles in red, showing access to all the buildings. And again, like I said, that east access was huge to the property here. We listened to you at the last meeting. We heard you don't like chain link fence. So we said, okay, there'll be decorative aluminum fencing throughout. Those green highlighted areas are where the decorative black aluminum will be. Also, I made mention here on this as well. Again, there's no doors facing the west or the southern neighbors there on those buildings that I have arrows going to. The doors are in the interior. There's another, picture of that black aluminum, decorative black aluminum fencing. All right, and lastly, the last change we made was the additional landscaping, especially on the south end. So again, here's the original. And then the new. You see how much more intense the landscaping is. We have a little bit more green space to work with too on the south end, so we filled it up. And that corner that's closest to the neighbors, we've got that packed with those are all evergreens. Everything in green is an evergreen. So we packed that corner really tight with a lot of evergreens. So again, there's the original. Here's the new. Also gave us opportunity to add some more landscaping around the pond. And then we did add more to the west too. I want to just single out the south, but we did add more to the west. And then yet to be designed are some perennial planting beds along Higgins Road. So we want people to drive by and go, wow, look at that place. Wow, is that nice? That's what we want to hear. And that attracts, customers for us and makes Sleepy Hollow look well landscaped too. All right, so that's our 8 changes. I need to bring up a couple of things here, just while I summarize here. We heard that, the community is concerned about property values and what might happen if this project gets built. People thinking that property values would go down. And also there's been a lot of misinformation being spread by a couple of the people that have been here at every meeting trying to derail our plan. And quite frankly, I want to address that. I really didn't want to do it. Honestly, I didn't want to even bring it up. But the lack of professionalism and the lack of civility that's been spread on social media, I feel I have to say something about it. So anyway, though, on the property values first, does self-storage reduce property values? The answer is no. And it was put in, this is why we think it might have gotten spread via social media too, is somehow this got in our original application that we said that it may decrease property values. I don't know where that came from. It did not come from us. We did not put that in.
When we read it, we thought it was just the village's an internal opinion, and so we saw it, and we're like, I don't know, that's not true, I don't know why they say that.
Yeah, we thought that was put in by the village. So that is not something we said. So we looked and researched too. I'm sorry that doesn't show that right in the corner, but Realtor.com says that there's no data whatsoever that shows that self-storage is among influences that would reduce property values. You know, it's the NIMBY effect, you know, not in my backyard, but this property is zoned commercial. You know, it's a fact. Something's gonna go here eventually. I think we are gonna be one of the best uses for it. There's a lot of other uses that could be a lot more damaging to property values. And there's even some demonstrations here in some of these American Planning Association says that self-storage can actually be an asset to the community and increase property values because they offer an extended benefit to potential buyers and renters. Also, it's been said many times at the meeting that we had no residences, or we weren't near a residential area in where we have our facility now in Wakanda. The blue is all residential. Okay, Stormore is right there in red, and just to the left there is our neighbor to our self-storage facility we have in Wakanda right now is Messiah Lutheran Church. Okay, they hold preschool and kindergarten there every day. The playground is right along that red line, that red and yellow line there. That's where the playground is. They approved our use there with kindergartners playing next to our facility. Okay, you know, some of these rumors that are being spread, I just have to respond to this. So I'm sorry that I didn't want to do this, but we need to point out the facts and not fiction. Okay, here's the survey of our property, showing the residences, how they're divided along the south end there too. And I wanted to point this out as well. You see that kind of squiggly line on the south end? Well, that squiggly line shows the cut grass line along the property. Okay, it's showing encroachments from 3 out of the 4 neighbors and how much they're encroaching using the property. So maybe that has something to do with why they're always here protesting this project, because maybe they don't want to give up all that extra real estate they're using for free. All right. The other thing we wanted to add here is I just want to point this out. The sprinkler systems for self-storage. Self-storage per the IBC code is exempt from sprinkling system. Okay, Sleepy Hollow has adopted sprinkling systems in all their buildings, but the IBC code that everybody goes by in the state of Illinois says it's not required. Okay, so if we have to install sprinkling systems in the drive-up building, so we get it for the climate control. Climate control's got hallways, we get it, we understand it, and we support that. But a drive-up building is, you know, 20 feet wide, a unit, or 20 feet deep, and 10 feet wide, and we need to sprinkle that. I just see a nightmare trying to sprinkle these buildings that are unheated. They're unheated and they're unoccupied. I see a nightmare for me if one of them ever goes off. It's unprecedented because there aren't any drive-up self-storage facilities in the entire state that we know of. I've talked to 2 of my building suppliers. I've talked to my architect. He says, I don't know of any of them that are sprinkled. It's not required by the IBC code. Why would anybody sprinkle it? But Sleepy Hollow seems to think it's needed. So it would be unprecedented if we have to do this. It also adds another 5 pounds of structural load. You were asking about the air conditioner. I have to add 5 pounds of structural load onto the ceiling in order to support the pipes. Okay, the pipes will run 18 inches below the ceiling for coverage. So I can't run the sidewalls all the way to the ceiling. They'll hit the pipe. And then what we have to do is install what they call burglar bars. So that nobody can crawl over that wall to get into somebody else's adjoining unit. Another expense. Also, wire mesh will need to be added to the ceiling right below the pipe so that people can't stack boxes and things all the way to the ceiling. And then they, hit the head goes off, or they stack it so close that if there would be a fire, that it wouldn't work. It's just gonna spray the boxes right there and not spray the entire surface area. So, again, we really just feel it's unnecessary. We'd like to ask for your consideration on that. These buildings, again, are unheated and unoccupied. So it would be a hardship on us because of all that extra cost. We're razor sharp right now on this project. Again, I won't, we're running long on time. I won't go through it all again, but I think, we've made 8 changes to the site plan, significant changes. We listened to you guys, we heard what you said, and we really think we've come up with a really good plan. Is this a perfect plan? No, there is no perfect plan. It's not perfect for us either, because we had to get rid of two floors of climate controlled building, because we wanted to compromise. We're here in the interest of compromising. I came 6 months ago. I came here and went around and talked with several of the residences on the south side here of the property. I came here willingly before I even started investigating this, just to explain what we're doing, why we want to do this. Okay, come here for their support, and we're asking for your support on this project. I think it's a good fit for the site. I really do. Again, it's quiet. It's allowed for the code. We exceeded that minimum landscape requirement. Security will be state of the art, keep the area safe. It's the highest and best use for this difficult property. This is a difficult property, and it'll get Conrad Rybeck out of the picture and get us in here in Sleepy Hollow. It fits that low to moderate density, providing the need for the residences and surrounding communities. And like I said, this is going to be one of the biggest properties in Sleepy Hollow. I think it is the biggest property, and it's going to generate significant property taxes for the village. So, I thank you all for your time and your attention. Did you want to do questions now?
Preview public start with the 4 that you had.
Right, it's time to allow for some public comment if there is any, which might include questions for the petitioner. Not the person's, well, I don't know, who wants to speak?
Do we have our list?
We have some sign-ins. We do.
First person we got is Kyle Walski.
Right. Well, he will need to be sworn. He has not spoken before.
I've spoken before.
Not the last
Not
public
in
hearing.
not in this proceeding.
Yeah.
So, court reporter, would you please do that? Thank you.
Sir, raise your hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes. So on one of the properties that reside to the south, and again, I understand something is gonna go in there eventually, right? We got this far because the zoning board and the other board, rezoned this property for this type of property to be allowed when it wasn't originally. So we're in this mess already. But what I don't understand is if it's zone B2, and under my understandings, I could be wrong, but it's supposed to be one building under B2. And we have 8 buildings here, right? So this property just keeps growing and growing and growing. And again, you guys act upon the village, right, and protect the residents and everything else. Originally, we had a 100-foot buffer, then it went down to an 80-foot buffer, now there's pretty much no buffer, I mean, I have 25 feet from this edge right here to my property.
28,
Sorry,
28.
I'll give you 3 feet. Let's just make it,
plus 10, plus 10
Mr. James?
let's just make it 30 feet. Just 30 feet, right? From my property line to that building, right? When originally it was supposed to be a 100-foot buffer. And all of these trees that are existing right now on the property, he's gonna have to cut down to even put his newly planted landscaping up, which is probably gonna be 4-foot trees, 6-foot trees that are gonna take 20, 30 years to grow. So really, in hindsight, there's gonna be 0 buffer. But 28 feet. I want to ask you guys, do you even, I mean, know how, could you gauge what 28 feet is? Probably this room. So my property, all of a sudden, that used to have a 100-foot buffer when we first came into this, then it got shot down to an 80-foot. Now it's gonna be 28 feet is the size of this room. So where is the protection that you guys promised the residents, right? Why can't we cut out some of these buildings? How is there 8 buildings now and, I guess 7, because you cut 1 in half, and I guess it's just named 7A, 7B. How did we get this far? I mean, it's just mind boggling. And you guys think that this goes within Sleepy Hollow? Sleepy Hollow is a rural area, right? No streetlights, no sidewalks, and then we're gonna have this monstrosity in there? How does that make sense? The topography too, on top of it? 25-foot, 30-foot building, whatever it's gonna be, is gonna be so much higher because that lot is so much built up. It's not like where the banquet is, where it's sunk in and there's a 35-foot building. This piece of property is so much higher and it's gonna be that much more elevated. I'm perplexed at how we're even at this point. And again, we have no protection at this point because his enhanced buffer that he's gonna build, right? He's gonna have to cut down, more of those trees are gonna be coming down. He's not telling you that right now. But all of these trees that are there right now are gonna be chopped down. So there's not gonna be any existing old trees there. So what do we have, 25 years for a tree to grow? You were in the nursery business. How long does an evergreen take to grow?
I don't know if I'm supposed to.
No.
If I'm allowed to ask any question.
It's just it's public comment. I mean.
No, he can ask questions of the petitioner.
I-
Do you have an answer to that?
So how long does an evergreen take to grow?
Most grow about a foot a year.
A foot a year, and what size evergreens do you plan on planting there?
6 foot,
So again, we have 20 years for that.
what you have now is a bunch of junk trees that have no foliage at the bottom whatsoever. You
It's
probably
still-
don't have foliage until you get a good 15 feet above that trunk.
It's still
They,
blocks
they've
it.
shaded each other out.
You answered his question.
We have everything.
Okay.
Time up.
Yeah,
How much time? do I-
you're at 3:48. You got another 5 minutes, so you got another minute.
And then, where does a fence come into play? I mean, why wouldn't we have a decorative fence that you can't see through on top of a berm? I mean, again, these little things go a long way for the residents. Right now, we're just getting essentially shit on. And again, you could say, hey, I bought that property, which the president told me before. But when I bought that property 10 years ago, it wasn't zoned commercial. The zoning was changed. So we're in this mess because of the board being, I don't want to say it, but just acting foolishly and not putting the residents first and not even putting the village first. You guys all say you love the village, right? I bet you if one of your properties was aligning this, or one of your direct families was aligning this, we wouldn't have this conversation because it'd probably get squashed. We had a big fit about a cell tower. The cell tower would have made more sense. It would have made more money to the village, maybe not property taxes, but what the village is gonna get out of this. What the village is gonna get out of this is what, $4,000 to $6,000 a year? That's 1/10 of a police officer. So again, what is the village really gaining out of this? That's all I gotta say.
Okay. Okay, Anne Marie, 1801 Hillcrest.
I just wanted to chime in. I'm still perplexed about,
Did you,
What?
were you already sworn in, ma'am?
No,
Oh,
not
thank
sworn
you.
in. Please state your name if you would.
I'm Anne Marie on Hillcrest Drive.
I got somebody. Raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely. I'm just perplexed where the village is giving away its biggest piece of commercial property to a business that's gonna bring in negligible revenue. This isn't the best solution for us. Any of other options that even exist today, like a dispensary, would make so much more sense for Sleepy Hollow than putting in something that brings no money into us. That's all.
Okay, next would be Reese. Last name is Reese. If you want to be sworn in, ma'am, you just give your full
He
name.
was sworn in for the public hearing. You realize you're still under oath, is that right, Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try not to cry and I'm gonna try not to throw up. First of all, when you say that you're bumped up to, in Wakanda, to residents, no, there's a road. So I guess you don't understand that part. And being next to a church, whatever, I don't care. You're in my backyard. As far as me mowing the grass, if I hadn't taken care of that grass, it would be as tall as my home. So, yeah, that's what I was doing. I was cutting the grass, so it doesn't look abandoned. I take personal offense to that, by the way. Second, social media, yeah, we have a right to write whatever we want on social media. That's the way it goes. Profitability, again. Just keep building and building and building to make yourself more money. Excuse me? Sleepy Hollow is a community that's been around for a long time. Everyone cares about each other, we care about where we live. I don't think putting in a monstrosity of storage units that, I like how you trick 8 buildings to call it 7A and 7B, like no one's gonna catch that it's really 8 buildings now. Fits in at all, not at all. And I'll tell you right now, even if I had steps of storage, that would be the last place I'd go. Because I would not want to give you business at all. Be considerate of neighbors. So far, this whole entire process has not been considerate of us at all. We have come to these meetings, we have made our statements and it come back and it's different. It's goes from 100 feet, like Kyle said, down to 25 feet. Are you kidding me? We went out there, we had Courtney Bowe, we had Mr. Diatley, we had Mr. Harney, Jenny McGuire. They all came out, and to see it is to believe it. And I really wish any of you would have come out to the properties and just say, let me look. Because you would be astonished how close it's gonna be to us. And it is going to interfere with our everyday enjoyment of our yard. I don't care if 9 people go a day. It's looking at that. That is not what Sleepy Hollow is. I think you can still try to find something that fits more, a restaurant. And you know what, kennel, I joked about that. Serious as a heart attack, first of all, a kennel is never gonna go there. We know that. Those kennels, they're not everywhere. But a nice strip mall that's taken care of, even the owners behind us, when Mr. Regan put together his plan, I was not happy about it. But you know what he did? He left such a buffer between my backyard property line and the start of his. It's tolerable. It is tolerable. And he left all the landscaping in there and added some. So during the summer months, I don't see the mall when I'm in my yard. And I love that. He did that on the back side of the mall too. He didn't impede on these people's homes. And this is impeding on our homes, that whole strip. And I just hope that you've listened to us. And we're cranky about it. We're upset about it because this is our house too. And like I said, when I moved here and I got 7 pages of do's and don'ts, that's no way did I think that you would approve something like this to go in there. I really didn't think that. Thank you.
John Payton.
Peyton also spoke at the last meeting. He was sworn. You realize you're still under oath, sir?
Yes, I do. And when I get home tonight, my wife will probably remind me. Apparently, I'm under oath all the time. I might have some trouble there. Last time I know Mr. James presented, I mentioned I thought it was very professionally done, and I still think so. And his demeanor and his attitude seemed like he's kind of a nice, easy guy to like. However, that doesn't change the idea. The idea is still an ugly idea. And last time I had the opinion and suggested that this is still trying to fit the wrong idea onto this property. And I still believe that even tonight, with all the accommodations that he's made, and I will give him credit for trying hard to fit the wrong idea on this property. I first met him 6 months ago, as he mentioned tonight, sitting in Kyle's driveway, when he was exploring the opportunity of participating in it, because he was a partner then with the current owner. And I told him, speaking for myself, in front of Kyle and speaking for most of my neighbors who are here tonight, that he wasn't gonna find any acceptance by the people on that block. That we were against the idea and told him flat out, then, I'm sorry, we're not sympathetic to the idea, we're not interested in that idea. But yet, 6 months later, he's still putting in an effort to try to make this work. I'd suggest that's because it's potentially very profitable for him. The cost to build these buildings is inexpensive, especially if they're lightweight enough. Foundations don't need to be that significant. Rather than have a brick wall, he's suggesting a brick facade, if you will, or covering over the steel wall. Please consider what a steel building looks like 10 years later, 20 years later. They don't look good. They don't hold up. He's got every legal right to build this if we allow it, but then he's got every legal right the next day, the next year, 10 years later to sell it because his life changes, his needs change. And the next owner might just be a financial owner who just decides to let the thing go to hell and just take as much profit out of it as they can. And now we're stuck here as residents with a property that looks like shit, sorry to swear, that looks poor, maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now, because of the material choices that he's making at the initial building. He talked about I want to get this right, property code, the IBC code, I believe you referenced. My understanding is that that code is kind of in place when no other municipality or local codes proceed. So it generally is followed through most of the agricultural and rural communities in Illinois. However, after a municipality occurs and a town exists, especially like you go the other end of the spectrum like Chicago, usually those codes are enforced to a higher standard because people care more. The idea of not having sprinklers, if he asks for that, think about what, like on the news this morning, that manufacturing facility that burned down in Aurora this morning. What would it look like if just a fire took place in one of these buildings 10 years from now, whoever that owner is, what is that going to look like in our community? What's it going to take for someone to restore it to something that's useful and attractive versus just letting it sit and just renting out the other 6 units perpetually? Please keep in mind when making a decision for the long term. This is not a good fit. Do I still have a moment? Do I still have a minute?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I found this interesting. I took an interest in the property. So I wondered, what was it originally? So my understanding is, and maybe not be perfect, but Sleepy Hollow was incorporated in the late 50s. And that property was originally zoned for high density residential. I think the idea was to have some sort of apartment building on it. Because back then you didn't really build townhouses. And for some reason, it just never happened. And then later, decades later, it got rezoned commercial. And then after decades more, nothing's made it on the property because it's a misfit. And then in the 2009 master plan for the community, it was identified that the best and highest use would be a medical office building for that property. And then that didn't happen. Pandemic hits, economics have all changed, but please just consider what you're doing for the community. 400 people signed a petition saying not to do this. And what's it going to look like 10, 20 years from now? Thank you.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah,
what's your last name, sir?
Canelli.
No.
Canelli.
Were you sworn in?
No.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes. So just a couple of questions. You made a couple of comments regarding property tax and what that was going to be. Have you been able to determine, and how can you determine how much that's going to be?
Well, it's based off the value, once it's constructed, we're probably gonna be about $100,000.
The property tax?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Have you done a feasibility study?
Yes,
Please.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
feasibility study rated it as a B plus.
What does that mean in terms of occupancy?
That's the overall grade it got, as from, from A to F.
If this were to be approved, how soon would you start construction?
Well, we have to get IDOT's approval for that ingress and egress there. But we would like to start, hopefully within a year, if we can get the IDOT approval.
Okay, that's all I- thanks.
Okay.
Is there anybody else that we did not, okay, is this from the previous sign up? We had 4 people from the previous?
We did.
Okay, you want to go ahead, sir, what's your, state your name again?
Vernon,
Brendan, you were sworn in last time?
yes.
Okay, okay, go ahead, sir.
And you're still under oath.
Yeah, don't get around that.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. James, if I may. So as I'm looking at it, number one, let me clarify something. You mentioned in the IBC about sprinklers. Just for the record, chapter 9 in IBC specifying where it's required. And in S1 and S2, there are requirements for sprinklers. However, you got a 12,000 foot threshold before that hits. And I think that's what you were looking at.
Correct.
That was enhanced in our local amendments.
But wait, let's say it right. It's 12,000 square feet, then you need a firewall. You don't have to have sprinklers.
That's an option. That is an option.
Yes, sprinklers are not required on the IBC code. Firewalls are once you reach 12,000 square feet.
You know, as I went through that, this is what I had found. After 50 years, I kind of remembered a couple of those things. Anyway. Okay, so as we're going through here, one of the things that's been pointed out. You're asking for a variance of going from 1 building to 7, and we do have 8, no matter how you cut it. And I understand that you've added this alley for fire access. However, this is still not meeting the requirement, which is you have to be able to get around all of the buildings. You have to be able to bring their apparatus in. That squeezes that lot. This is part of the difficulty of that lot, but that's from day one. There's been an existing condition. When we talked about utility right away or easement. Depending on how that lands, if when the utilities come through and they kind of like, yeah, that's where we're going. And you get to live with it. It's usually though centered on a property line. Which means part of your land and part of the neighbor's land falls into that zone of you're totally at risk for anything they gotta do. If they have to come in and dig it out, you get to fill it out. I've had that discussion many times with homeowners over the course of my career. And I went through briefly on your topo that your engineer provided. And what I saw there appeared, and I don't have precise AutoCAD like that, all right, but I was able to make a pretty close scalable rendition of your layout here, and your retention actually ended up about 6 feet off the property line. You know, the edge of your retention.
Okay, if you're gonna
No,
tell me,
I'm just saying
remember,
what I
you're
thought.
under oath. I have an engineered survey
Mr. James,
Good. I
pointing
know.
out that
Mr. James.
this is correct.
let him make his comments. You'll have.
And again,
Thank you.
I'm being very careful when I tell you, no, I don't have no world class survey, I don't have, precise. Software. What I have to make do with, all right, and as I'm saying, it appears. That the edge of your pond was 6 feet off property line. May or may not be the case, all right, but that's what I'm seeing on those layouts. Landscape ratio, you said you're looking at 35%. Again, what I'm looking at looked a little less.
to look less. I'm not saying you're way out, but. Hey. We can
We
be close.
calculate this with CAD, so I know I'm right on, but
Well,
the computer tells me.
You know what? You got an engineer.
Okay.
Right.
Well, no, wait out. God bless you.
Yeah,
You
you
know?
don't have to, we'll wait, if you wanna make response when he's done talking.
Now, one other, and you probably know this too, I saw the letter you got from Mr. Michelle. You know he has a partner. Yeah, okay, was he involved in that discussion?
Yeah, he was,
Okay, and what did he say?
he said the same thing.
Really?
And Mac, yes, his name is Chuck.
Chuck,
Chuck,
really?
yep,
Partner I talked to, his name Ron,
okay.
he was out in California. Pops in now and then.
Mac Patel, I believe, is the owner of record.
Well, it's a company owns it, it's like you have a company that operates your business. He's up in Crystal Lake. Yeah, where was I? I don't want to run through my time here.
How much more time? do
You're
we have?
at, about 10 seconds.
Oh, well, yeah, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, Mr. James, I really, you've done a heck of a job pulling this together, but I have a problem with justifying approving all the additional buildings. I realize you say that you have,
Okay, we're out of
you got to
time.
be profitable. You know, have a reasonable return, but there's actually no provision in the code, in spite of the fact that it's in that form.
Okay, anybody else that, okay, we'll state your name for the report. Have you been sworn in before?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And your names?
Deborah Burden.
You realize you're still under oath.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
I had a question, first of all, if you could explain how the access is into the other lot, Mr. James, that was my question.
How the access?
I walked through the site and there's all kind of storm sewers, sanitary sewers. There's a waterway that I heard that was not supposed to be crossed. So could you enlighten me on how that works?
Yes. That will be crossed right here. Across that is a storm sewer drainage coming off of Route 72 here.
Okay, but when you walk on, it goes down 8 feet, 9 feet, and there's a sanitary sewer, there's a storm sewer, there is piping.
There's a storm sewer and an open drain
So
there.
are you gonna, how are the cars gonna go over there? Do you have to go up a
It'll be
hill?
engineered, no, they'll
You're
be
gonna go
engineered.
straight?
Yeah. I'm not an engineer, so I can't
Mhm.
speak for how the engineer designs it, but that area will be crossed with the engineered, what do
Is
you want to
that-
call it?
Okay, all right, so
Crossing,
Okay.
culvert,
I thought that water still has a flow, because it
Yeah,
goes.
it can't be impeded,
Can't be impeded.
right?
All right, so that is my question. Does that take away from my time or no?
Yeah, you have, you're at a minute and 20 seconds in.
Okay, I'll try to talk fast. All right, so you guys all know who I am, Debbie Vernon. I think we might have been one of the people that come to every meeting, but I think that's my right as a village resident to come to the meetings. So, but I don't take offense with that. I just wanted to update what another, Mr. Payton said, that there are 424 plus signatures that have said, say no to the self-storage facility. It's all across the village. I think that's a really important thing, that there are a lot of residents that are behind this. The petition, the zoning rules in the B2 commercial lot were set up specifically to protect the residential homes on Laurel Court and Rainbow Drive. These are our neighbors and our friends and as constituents and as board members, your constituents. You know, I don't think, somebody else had mentioned, is that Mr. and Mrs. James, the plan commission and the board would want to live right next to this. We understand that it is zoned that way, but not to have it 25 feet, 6 feet from Edie's house. That is just not acceptable. There was a concept plan that the James presented February 10th, 2025, and it was very basic. It wasn't to scale, I don't believe, with the architectural drawing, didn't use the appropriate buffers for being next to the residential areas.
I believe that it should have been 25 feet per linear length, not just 25 feet. If you look at the code, there's a table up at the top. I think it is expected that that table would keep completing. So that makes a big difference. The other one, you guys get 100 feet, 100 and something feet, 25 feet is ridiculous. There are so many things that were not complete. Now, there's a new plan and various other plans were put together for meetings that you didn't have the quorum and then it was canceled. So all that time, more things was being done and changed. I think I believe what was mentioned earlier, that the fire codes are in our village, and then the fire trucks and the emergency trucks have to go around every single building. They can't just stop and then use a hose. That's not the way it works. We took a trip recently to Mr. James's facility. I have pictures if anybody would want to see them. We stayed on the road. We didn't go on your property, and we took pictures. It's off of Old Rand Road and Route 12 on Old Rand Road. What you see is factories. You see Snelton and Snelton pipe drillers. You see a bunch of old trucks. There is one home that is his neighbor. It is 210 feet approximately, might be off a little bit, and we have CAD, but to the nearest storage building on Mr. James, one neighbor that we saw. There's a Lakewood Forest Preserve, there's the church that was mentioned, it's all very commercial. Look it up on Google if you want to see pictures, I have pictures. And then now we want to let Mr. James have 25 feet from a neighbor's property line from his building in Sleepy Hollow, and only 6 feet from another neighbor's property line, which is Lee Edie's house, detention pond. I think you should be ashamed of yourselves, even considering allowing this. That's my personal opinion. There's a church that has the school. I talked.
About 20 seconds.
20 seconds. So anyway, the whole end is, you know, please do better for the residents of Sleepy Hollow, and this proposal does not belong here. Ask yourself, is this the best decision? And then I talked to the assessor, Michael Brelak. It is not 100,000. It's based upon square feet, and you can look it up. Talk to the assessor if you want a real answer.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, now we have Jean. Jean, you want in? Okay, you want to state your full name?
Jean Tannhauser. Raise your hand. Silence for the testimony you're about to give, the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. My name is Jean Tannhauser. I live at 1516 Laurel Court with my husband, John. We bought there a little over 6 years ago, knowing that something could be built on this property. I'm not sure if we knew it was commercial at the time, but it doesn't matter. We don't have a problem with commercial building being put there. The problem is, why does a building or 8 buildings, I mean, you might as well shorten them and make 12 buildings. Why do they have to come up to residential property? Why can't you have 3 buildings and put it at the road? I mean, I get that it's not profitable for him. Then it's not the right space for you. And like everybody else said, it doesn't fit here. We moved here for this to be our forever home because we love the village. We love the